What's going on, guys, and welcome to the 80th Xamarin Android tutorial. Number 80. That's it's getting up there, right? It's getting a little that much closer to 100, you know. So let's keep it going, guys, right? So this is the 80th video, and it's actually going to be the continuation of the 79th tutorial, which basically just kind of goes over the design library and the app that we're going to be doing to kind of highlight the aspects of the design library. And that's this one right here, of course. If you haven't watched it, just check out the previous video. I talk about everything that we're going to be doing and the stuff that we're going to be looking forward to implement. And we also, the last few minutes, we also set up the references, which we got the design library, which in turn brought in, the support v4, which is sort of like the core library of the support libraries, and some other support libraries as well. And then we also brought in a library that's going to help us create circle image views very easily. And that kind of just helps to keep in with the design of material design and design library and all of this modern kind of UI development for Android. So we went ahead and picked that up. So if you guys haven't watched that video, just be sure to check it out and then continue back over here. So this video is going to be talking about we're basically going to be taking the first steps into creating this sample app, and we're going to be building the skeleton. And what I mean by the skeleton is sort of like we're not really going to see much development in this. We're going to be doing a lot of development. We're not going to be really be able to see a lot because we're going to be really building the skeleton, the foundation of it. And that's sort of like the best way to kind of, for me, to wrap my head around building something. You kind of want to build like this core and then kind of build stuff in it. So the core meaning like the activity, the files, and then maybe the host, the tab layout, and then you can start sticking stuff in it and then building on top of it from there. So that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get rid of this code. If you guys have been following along these last 79 videos, you probably are very familiar with that code. The first thing that I like to do before I forget, because I inevitably will, is go into the properties, and I want to set my minimum to I'm gonna set it to 4.2. I could go back way farther than this, but I think 4.2 is a good minimum to have. And I'm just going to keep it as compiling with the target Android version to compile using the SDK version, and then I'm going to compile using my latest platform, which is for my SDK, which is Marshmallow. And that's kind of another thing to note. Make sure that you guys' SDK is up to date. Easiest way to do that is to open up the Android SDK manager and make sure that the SDK is up to date. The reason why I say that is because that's going to be utilizing a lot of the support libraries utilize a lot of how your SDK is set up and how up to date it is. So you always want to make sure that your SDK is as up to date as possible when all these new goodies are coming out. Okay, so now that we have our minimum Android target version, and then our target and our compile all set up, let's go ahead and start with the main activity. So we're going to leave it named the main activity, and that's going to be, you guessed it, what's going to be hosting the layouts. We're going to start by creating a resource, another layout. So let's go ahead and do that now. And let's call it Android layout. So it's going to be AXML file, and we're going to call it include list view pager. All right, so we're going to kind of segment out the layouts by kind of injecting them inside of the main activity layout, which that didn't make sense to you guys. I apologize, and I will hopefully make it clear right now. So this is going to be our list view pager, or I'm sorry, list view pager, which is going to hold the view pager. If you guys aren't familiar with it, the view pager is what basically interacts with the tabs that will like let it scroll, and it scrolls through the tabs, and it gives us that nice layout of the tabs, and it sort of handles a lot of methods, a lot of events, and it sort of acts like as a host and a coordinator of the tabs. So, but anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to make the layout, and this is actually going to be the coordinator layout. So this is going to be like all of this, guys. This is what you see. All of this is going to be what we're going to make right now. So it's going to have like the actual app bar layout. It's going to have the tab layout, which is of course this tab layout. and then it's going to have the view pager, which kind of handles the tabbing and like the scrolling of it, like I'm doing right now. And then it's going to actually have this floating action button too. So we're making all of this stuff right now, and this is going to reside inside of the main activities layout. We're just going to inject it in there along with some other stuff, which is, you guessed it, the navigation view, which is the drawer layout. Okay, so hopefully it'll come together, but right now I want to make it clear this is the part that we're going to be designing in this video. We're going to be getting this. We won't see it yet because we'll have to do some code behind, but this is the part that we're going to be doing. So that being said, I'm going to avoid having to do any kind of like copying and pasting on this one because it's going to be some explaining is going to need to be done. So bear with me. So let's go ahead and we're gonna drill down and we're gonna get inside of this support library, the support.design widget, and we're gonna grab the coordinated layout. Okay, and the coordinated layout is a big layout that has a lot of. It's very imperative for the design library, and you guessed it. It coordinates the layout of other layouts. So it talks to things and it acts as a coordinator. So you know. The coordinator is actually a coordinator layout's a perfect word for it. So with that being said, it doesn't do much on its own, of course. But once you start doing some stuff and you give other layouts behaviors, you'll see what the magic starts to happen. But remember, the coordinator layout is basically the way Android explains, like a super frame layout. It just it's a frame layout that just does so much more, and you could really start having your layouts inside of it talk to each other. And that's where you get those cool like collapsible toolbars and all that stuff. So one thing that when I've been developing, it seems almost guaranteed is that there's going to be a AppBarLayout as a direct child of a coordinator layout. Okay, so let me repeat that again. An AppBarLayout needs to be a direct child of a coordinator layout, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And that'll make way for all the other stuff that's here to come. And you'll see a lot of them in the Android documentation. If you guys ever want to pull it up, you'll see that Android will stress this very, very often, is that it needs to be a direct child. So if it's not the second child, but the first child of the coordinator layout. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give it an ID. Call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it AppBar. And as usual, just in our layout, we're just going to give it a width and a height. So height, and we're actually going to wrap content on this one. And we're going to give it a direct theme. Okay, so the direct theme of it is going to be a Android theme. A built-in one is what I mean by that, and that's going to be dark action bar, and this is going to give us some particular color of that theme. And this is new to material design, to where you can actually give themes directly to widgets. So you've probably seen this before. Okay, and we are going to first fix my typo. Okay, so the next thing we want to have inside of the AppBarLayout is our toolbar. All right, and this is going to be this toolbar right here, guys. All right, so this little toolbar with the hamburger, the design library text, it's going to be that toolbar right there. So that's going to be inside of the AppBarLayout. And putting it inside of the AppBarLayout is once again pretty imperative on being able to keep it to where it's going to where it's actually going to collapse and do that nice collapsing and expanding event as you scroll through the recycler view. So that's going to be with the AppBarLayout talking to whatever's within it, and then having it talk to the toolbar to get it to where it can scroll out, or I'm sorry, expand and collapse. So I'm going to give it a ID, and then as usual with any of these, I am going to give it a width, and we wanted to actually expand the whole width, of course, so we're going to give it a match parent, and the height is going to be the height of a action bar. And the way we can do that is we can do question mark attr/action bar size, and this will get the size of an action bar from the Android library. Okay, that's what I just did right there. Now another thing I can do to get the background, this is to keep things uniform, guys, and this is a good practice. I will grab the color primary. If you remember what I mentioned, the color primary. The color primary is something that you set in your theme, which we'll have to do. And this essentially just gets the color primary of the current theme and sets it as the background color of this. And that's just one thing, another way to keep things uniform and automate the process of changing your theme and make it very easy. And then now the pop-up theme, which is going to be, the pop-up theme is, if there was I think if we click right here, the overflow, this is the pop-up of a toolbar in that case. So when we have one, our pop-up theme will be, and this is a way that we're going to go ahead and we're going to get a built-in theme. So we'll do app compat light. All right, and then here is the one I've been speaking of, and this is going to be the layout scroll flags, and this is going to be the one that determines the behavior of the toolbar and then what happens when you actually scroll through it. So scroll and then enter always gives it this exact behavior here, and enter always. So we'll have different ones, and we'll later on in the next videos I will come back to here and we'll look at some of the other values that are valid to give it, and we will run it, and we'll keep running it and see how they change and what changes through each one, and then you can just choose the one that you feel is appropriate for your app. Okay, so notice that there is a error showing up, and that's just because we haven't brought in a namespace for app. And remember, an app namespace is just a way to make it to where the code's a little cleaner. That way we don't have to bring in a whole bunch of different libraries. All we have to do is just bring in our resolution auto. It'll resolve our namespace automatically on runtime. So then now it will be quiet. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to build a tab layout. So this is our toolbar, and then notice that right below it in our app is the tab layout. So this is where our tabs are laid out. And you guessed it, that's what we want to do next. We want to bring that in. And to do that, we'll once again drill down into the design library that we are so very fond of now. And we will grab the tab layout. And we want to give it an ID because we want to be able to reference it, of course, inside of the code, which we will see soon enough. And we want to give it a layout width and height, which the width is going to be match parent. We want to expand the length of the screen, and then the height is going to be wrap content. We want it to just, of course, be only as tall as it needs to be. All right, guys, so that's going to be our toolbar, tab layout, toolbar, tab layout, and the rest of this whole screen right here is going to be our views. It's going to be our tabs, right? And remember, each tab is a fragment, but each tab takes the rest of the screen space of the device. So the way we do that is we basically come out. Well, this is going to be outside the app bar layout because our app bar layout is the part that's moving, and that's what gives it that scrolling effect. So now below that and outside of it is going to be our view pager. And remember, our view pager is the holder of all of these tabs. So it's going to be all this, and it allows it what it is to scroll and everything. So just imagine a container that has these tabs that then switches in between them as we want, as the user scrolls through them. So the rest of the width, or I'm sorry, the height is going to be the view pager. The view pager goes back to v4. It's very fundamental, so it makes sense that it's in the core library of the support libraries. And we will give that a ID because we're definitely going to need to reference that into the code. And of course, our width is going to be match parent, and our height is going to be, can you guys guess? Match parent. So it'll be match parent. So because we want to fill the rest of the screen height, of course. If it was wrap content, I don't know, that would get weird. So, but match parent hopefully makes sense to you guys and why it is that way. And here is where a lot of the magic comes out again with the design library, and this is a attribute layout behavior. And what layout behavior is doing, this is a string that we're going to reference that belongs to the Android library. So we don't have to like actually make the string, it already belongs, it's inside of the Android framework at this point in the design library. All we need to do is reference it. And what we're telling it right here, guys, is we're saying @bar scrolling view behavior. So we're basically saying the view pager, as you scroll through this and the stuff inside of it, then we're telling the coordinator layout. This is us talking to the coordinator layout right here. And as we put this, the coordinator layout now knows at runtime, oh, okay, @bar scrolling view behavior. So when this thing scrolls or stuff inside of it, which a recycler view is going to be inside of it, you'll see here, not inside of it directly in the XML, but it's going to fill with recycler views each tab, or I'm sorry, the first tab. So this right here is going to be filled with, the tab is going to be inside this view pager, and in that tab is a recycler view. So we're telling it, as stuff like that inside of it scrolls, to take this AppBarLayout, which coordinator layout can guarantee that it's going to be an AppBarLayout's direct child, because that's what Android tells us to do, is that an AppBarLayout needs to be a direct child of coordinator layout. Coordinator layout sees this and says, oh, okay, I need to have you collapse, or I need to do something with you. Let me look here. Okay, I need to scroll, enter always. And like I said, that does mean something to Android, and Android says, oh, okay, I know what to do with the toolbar. That's inside the AppBarLayout, because it controls the AppBarLayout, which in turn controls the toolbar and does stuff to it. This is what you need to do to it. And the toolbar says, this is what needs to be done to me. And so all this stuff I'm trying to get to is communicating through the layout behavior. And that's what tells Android, that tells the coordinate layout that it needs to do stuff inside the AppBarLayout, which we put here and says, oh, AppBarLayout knows what to do, because toolbar is saying I need to scroll and enter always. And all of this stuff is being done in the XML. That's what's so awesome about it. We don't have to write any code to do that. It does it all right here. And that's what gives it that nice visual feedback and really uses up a lot of the real estate of the screen. So this is very important, guys. And this is very important, this whole line right here. And the fact that you're using an AppBarLayout, which is a direct child of coordinator layout, is very important too. So if you have a keen eye, you might have noticed that I have not put the floating action. And remember, this is going to belong to the activity, so we want it to be persistent through the whole, all of the tabs. We don't want it to, this floating action button to belong to one tab. We want it to belong to the whole essence of it. So what we want to do is we want to put it here, since this is going to be persistent through. Imagine this as the main wrapper, and then all of these things are wrapped inside of it. So we want this to be the main overlay of it. And so in that case, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create our support design widget. So once again, this is part of the design library that we are talking about, and they have provided a floating action button. And I remember having to use something else of a floating action button, and you kind of had to create your own, or you had to go over and you had to find someone that created one. And what's nice is now it's built into the library, it's built into Android, and that's awesome, guys. So I hope you kind of sometimes when you struggle the most with something, when you finally get something or something's done for you, it's you can appreciate it that much more. So all I'm doing, guys, is I'm making a button, and it's very similar to a button in the way it works. So the gravity is going to be end bottom. That's going to be at the end, which is going to be on the right side, and the bottom, of course, is going to be the bottom. And the gravity, we can put the gravity, and we can tell it where to go, because remember that Android said this is basically like a coordinate layout, which is the parent of this. But we can use it like a frame layout, because it essentially is like a super frame layout. So we can still now locate and position widgets and buttons in this case using the layout gravity attribute. So let's go ahead and give it a margin, and we will have a resource that is fab margin. Okay, so there's some guidelines that Google has recommended to us to give, and that's a certain margin. I believe it's 16 dp, but we will make that resource here shortly. And then we'll do drawable done, which is just a check button, the check mark. All right, and that is it for this layout. And this is going to be, like I said, the bulk of the main activity, and we're just going to simply put that inside of the main AXML. So if we come into our main, this is our actual main. We want to get rid of this button. And here is where we can now inject the layout that we just made inside of the main layout. And the only reason we could just, we really could just copy and paste all of this and put it in here. But because they sort of have like these different responsibilities, it is nice to segregate the two. And then it just makes for a cleaner code. And to me, it makes it a little easier to maintain as well. So I like this design pattern here as well. I try to follow it as much as possible. And I do believe there's a certain thing that there's a little too much of something where you can segregate just everything, and it's like, now it's just hard to find stuff. But there is a nice kind of like a pattern that you can follow. If something feels like it has a different responsibility, sometimes it's nice to just separate that logic into 2 or 3 different files. Now we're going to change this to, so you probably at this point have made a, let me back up here, made a drawer layout. And I keep doing that. Sorry, guys. And we're going to do that now. So we are going to use the support v4 library, which has the drawer layout. So there's not really too much different here, guys. Usually before, what we did with the drawer layout is remember that it is using sort of like a z index. So anything, the second something after the other one will have a higher z index, so it'll kind of overlay. So we're using that scheme right now so that the drawer actually will overlay the main content. And just in case you lost visualization, let me show you that here in a second. Once I finish this resolution, this resolve namespace. So what I mean by that is the drawer, notice it overlays the main content, and that's what we're doing. We want to put this after this stuff. Remember, this is our main content, and we want to put the drawer outside, or I'm sorry, after the main content so that it overlays it nicely. And that's going to be a navigation view. And this is another widget inside of the design library. So, already in this first video, you guys can see how much we've utilized the design library and how much it's going to be doing for us just in the XML itself. And that's sort of something that Google's kind of, using a lot more, is logic, and a lot of the heavy lifting is being done inside of your XML. And that just makes for cleaner code, less boilerplate code is what they call it. And, I do like that. It does have some complexity with it, and sometimes it's, when you take things and make it more abstract, to me, sometimes it makes it harder to understand it at first, because things are happening that you didn't do anything to make it happen. So it's like, why does that even work? So when it breaks or something, you really don't know how to fix it because you never made it work. So it does add some complexity in that essence, but there are some pros to it, and a lot of that is it gets rid of a lot of boilerplate code, and if you do understand it, it makes your code a lot cleaner. So I will do a fit system windows equals true. And what that's going to do, guys, is going to let us, it's going to have it fit the system window. So it's going to bring it all the way up to the top. And that's, of course, for Lollipop and future OSs after it. So this is another thing I talked about in the last video, is the layout. And I can give it a whole layout. Notice that what we can do is we can actually make a whole nother AXML file, and we can tie it to that header layout. and Android will automatically be able to create that layout by using that AXML file. And that's just another way of getting rid of boilerplate code and not having to and sort of separating logic in the AXML itself. So it's very nice. Go ahead and finish this off. Okay, so I think we're gonna sort of kind of conclude right here, guys, and we're gonna let's go ahead and kind of go over what we just did. So we made the mainly the meat of the activity we made here, and this is going to be holding and hosting the tab layout, the toolbar, the view pager, which in turn hosts all of the tabs, and then of course the floating action button, which is going to be this guy right here. And then the second thing we went ahead and did is we went ahead and we went to the main activity, or I'm sorry, the main AXML for the main activity, and we injected that in here. So as soon as we do that, we get all this stuff right here, but we don't have a drawer yet until we actually wrap it inside of a drawer, which we did right here. And then of course we overlaid a navigation view over it. And this is the layout that we're going to see, this header layout right here. That's going to be this header layout right here. All right, we haven't yet made that, of course, but we will make that in the next video. And this drawer view is going to be all of this stuff here. So we're going to make a menu, and it's going to automatically kind of lay this stuff out for us nicely. So that's really nice. And then of course we're going to make this nav header in a separate AXML file as well. And then I'll go ahead and I'll lay that out for us nicely. And this is sort of notice that these are two different things. This is your header and this is your content. So it kind of makes sense to separate that out into another layout file, and that makes it to maintain it very easy to do. So segregating this stuff is kind of like the new way to kind of really make your code a lot cleaner. And the design library definitely gives you an example of the way that's going. So we're going to see that more and more in the next coming videos. But so for this video, I think that we can conclude on that, and then the next video we're going to continue with making this drawer view, and then hopefully at this point after that we'll have a few things to do extra, and we'll get ourselves a nice skeleton to work with, and then we'll start adding in the tabs for the fragments. All right, thanks for watching, guys.